football.
Niners!
Issue. We're so excited to have you. If you've never been here before, welcome. And if you've been here before, we're happy to see you. In the lobby, you probably saw that we have on the screen, "This is our city." We've been talking a lot about this. It's a really exciting endeavor. It's an audacious idea that we presented to take over the square and have a night of worship and to reverberate through the vibration of worship into Sonoma County. So that way other people who might not have ever seen or heard this story that we know so well, that they'd be invited into it. And so at the very beginning, if you remember, we said we're gonna raise $100,000. I remember getting up here and making that announcement, and I was like, that's scary. That makes me feel a little uncomfortable to even say out loud, because what if we raise like 12? How awkward is that? Like, let's just drop it a little bit so that way we don't miss the mark by too much. And so I remember just asking if anybody in their corner of their world had the means and the ability to give, that they would. And we had 240 donors come together over these past few weeks, and this is how much that we've raised so far. Go ahead and put it up on the screen. $97,000. That's awesome. That's insane. But it's not 100. So if you're one of those non-240 donors, I'm looking at you right now. No, I mean it. The goal was 100, and we've gotten really, really close. But that 100 was just a big number, right? A big number. That was just so that way we would have something to grow into as a church where we could say we're capable, that we're better together, that we're more capable as a unit than we are by ourselves. And that's what we've done so far, but we want to blow past the $100,000 because it's not about what we're raising, it's about the impact that we're making in this city and in our community. So we've elected 10 nonprofits that are around this county that we're supporting, that we're giving a check to on the night of September 24th. So that way we can say, hey, you don't need to believe what we believe for us to believe in what you're doing, because they're supporting young moms and single moms and kids and special needs organizations that we want to get behind them and say, hey, this is what we do as a church. This is why we exist. We don't just exist so we can come together and sing songs and hear an awesome message by Darren every Sunday. That's great. But what we're here to do is we're here to come together and make an impact. And that's exactly what we're doing. So if you have your phones, go to thisisourcity.net. That's where you can donate, and we can get this thing past our $100,000 goal, so that way we can bestow these gifts upon these nonprofits. I mean, you know that we care when we buy a .net website. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was the only thing left on GoDaddy, and we said, we'll take it. You either are a startup in 1997 or you are New Vintage Church plowing forward into the future. Thisisourcity.net, that's who we are. And that's where you can find out more information. There's gonna be live music, food trucks. September 24th is a time and a place that you don't wanna miss. Bring your friends, bring your community, bring your neighbors. We're gonna make an awesome impact in this place. So today, we have part 4 of So Much More that Darren's bringing to the stage. I heard it at the 9. It's full of power, it's full of conviction, and it gives us a clear pathway of how to live our life tomorrow, this week, and for the rest of this year. So do me a favor, stand up, say hi to somebody next to you, tell them good morning, and let's keep this morning going. Good morning.
But it won't prosper.
As the Spirit was moving over the water, Spirit, come move over us. Come rest on us. That's it. Come rest on us. As the Spirit was moving over the water, Spirit, come move over us. Come rest on us. Come rest on us. Come down, Spirit, when you move, you make my heart down. Spirit, when you move, you make my heart
Proverbs in verse 3, 5, and 6 talks about trusting in the Lord with all your heart and leaning not to your own understanding. Acknowledge him in everything and he will make your path straight. Right now we're going to learn a new song called Trusting God. Amen.
Blessed assurance, Jesus is mine. He's been my fourth man in the fire, time after time. Born of his spirit, washed in his blood, and what he did for me on Calvary is more than enough. I trust in God, bless y'all. You can have a seat.
Labor Day weekend, you got a day off work. How many of you get Monday off? You're just not going to work Monday. The rest of you, you just don't want to talk to me right now. I got it. Anybody cooking out, barbecuing today, tomorrow? Wanted to send me that invite. So, no one's eating. You guys you're just here. You're frustrated. You don't have friends, and you're sad. Okay, great start. No, it's good to see you all. I hope you're going to get a relaxing weekend or get like some landscaping done or whatever you do, shop at Home Depot on this weekend. So we're going to have a great day together. I'm glad you're here. This whole thing that we're doing, this is our city. It's been so fun to see the stories that are unfolding. There's always so much more going on than what we would even hope sometimes. Just more happens. So Kevin Kubandi, our high school pastor, and I, we get to kind of work with the football team at Montgomery High School. And we got invited last year after the tragedy that happened there. If you don't know, there was a stabbing, and it was kind of, culture shock to everybody there. And so we got invited to come kind of figure out some solutions to change the culture there. So Friday night we went to the game. We're hanging out with the team. They crushed the other team. I don't know if it's going to happen a lot this year, but Friday night they slaughtered them. It was great, and for our team. And so Saturday morning, we get to go to their film session, and before film session, we get to give them like a 10-minute talk about character, about integrity, about leadership, about perseverance, whatever it is that we want to talk about that morning. And Chick-fil-A provides the chicken biscuits, so they all show up on time because they get food. And yesterday, I got to tell the students, I got to say to the football team, hey guys, our church, and some of you came to summer camp, but our church has raised a bunch of money, and some of it's going to go to helping your school change the culture of the school. And so here's what we're going to do. We're starting this program called Fresh Start. And every Thursday at lunch, we're going to feed the first 50 students who show up. Restaurants around the city have already donated the food for the first semester. And some friends here that are here today raised some money. Yeah, that's awesome. How cool is that? And some friends... It gets better. It gets better. Some friends raise some money and so that we can do some special things. We're calling it Fresh Start. And so every month we're going to have a Friday. We're calling it Fresh Friday at Montgomery. And they're going to show up and we're going to have donuts and hot chocolate for the first 300 or 400 students that show up. And they're going to get a raffle ticket. And once a month we're going to give away a pair of fresh sneakers, fresh kicks of the month, right? And so you get a raffle for the fresh kicks. But here's why. Because we're starting an Instagram account called People of Monty. And the students in the group, in the club, are going to be on the lookout all month long for students who are doing great things at school. We're going to promote, highlight the fresh student of the day, fresh student of the week, the student who's doing great things for people, and we're going to change the culture of the school. And some of the money that we've raised, that you've given to this campaign that we're doing, This Is Our City, is going to go to change the culture of a school that was in shock last year. It's going to be amazing. And when I told the students, when I told the players on the team, I'm telling you, I thought, they're teenagers are going to be like, ungrateful little teenagers, But they looked at me, they were like, are you serious? You're doing that for us? And we wanted to say to them, we're not going to sit by while a school in our community goes to trash because of something that happened. We're not going to do that. As far as us, if this is our time and our season in this city at this place, we're going to do something about the hard things that happen. We're going to step into the things that happen. We're not going to give up on you guys. And their faces lit up. And then I said, Ryan Woodard will be there. And they were like, what? That kid's awesome. And so Ryan's going to be there. If you don't know Ryan Woodard, look him up. He's going viral. He's a local kid who sings. So he's going to be there that night. Food truck. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Okay. So the whole idea of this series comes from when Jesus said to his followers, isn't life more than food, and isn't life more than clothes? Isn't life more than just getting money and stacking it in barns? Because there's a story he told about this guy that got all this hay and all these crops. He just put it in a barn. And he said, you're a fool. Tonight you'll die, and it's just going to be in the barns. You raised a bunch of stuff for a barn. But your money is about more than stuffing in a barn for your own security. Money is actually a tool to be used for the good of others. And the best, and see, money is God's greatest competition for our affection, because money offers what God offers, security and hope and fun and all this stuff. And so the best way for us to tell our money that you're not going to be God of my life is to learn to give some of it away. Some of you gave $99, which I asked you to do. You told that $99 where it could go. You told that $99, you're not going to run my life. I'm telling you where to go. You're going to go over there. You're not going to Target with me today, sorry. You're going over there to do some good. I'm telling you where to go, because you got to tell your money where to go, or your money will run your life. And you'll live for money, and it will consume you. And so we got to learn to give it away. And if you don't want to give it here, you got to give it somewhere. You got to tell money where it can go, because you can't let money be dominating your life. It's not a good God. It doesn't follow through on its promises. And so we talked about money, and we said, listen, we got to do something different with our money. And last week we talked about the idea that Jesus was trying to teach his guys all this stuff, but they weren't getting it very quickly, which is encouraging to me, because I don't either a lot. And so if the followers of Jesus who are right there with him could still be like, what are we doing? Then that's good news for me, because sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? And so Jesus dies, he raises from the dead, and the first thing they say to him, his followers go, so is now when we're taking the Romans out. And Jesus is like, the Romans? You still think this is about like current political issues? You still think this is about the government? You still think that this whole thing I've done, I died, I rose from the dead, I've been training you for 3 years. You still think it's about government? That's what you think it's about? And Jesus says, no, see fellas, I don't know about the Romans, but I have so much more for you in mind. You're going to tell the whole world about me. You're going to tell everybody, and you're going to start this thing that is going to be known as the church. And there's going to be ones all over the place. There's going to be big ones, little ones, medium-sized ones. There's going to be people all over the world organizing in order to tell their city and their community about the good news of a God who loves them, even if they're not sure if they love him yet or not. That's what you're going to do. It's so much more. And so he tells these guys what they're going to do, and then they organize the church and they go forward. Now, what I told you last week was that we give our lives away for the good of others. Like, that's what we do. We take our time and our effort and we give it for the good of others. And my friend Jake, who was hosting this morning, Jake was up here hosting. You may not know this, Jake's a filmmaker. And Jake had just gotten back from Africa, where he had made this film. And he sent me a trailer just because we're homies. And I was like, let me check out what you've been up to. And I looked at it, I said, dude, this is what I talked about Sunday at church. This is exactly what I'm saying. This is what I'm trying to tell people. This is what I'm trying to show people. Can I show this at church? He was like, for $100, you can show. No, he said, of course. Of course you can show it at church. So this is 3 minutes about the very thing that I've been talking about that Jake just went and did in Africa. Take a look. It's pretty cool.
If I go back and think a year ago, right now, this was just an idea. You have your indie filmmakers in this film. As you can see, we're all filmmakers. The idea was pretty simple, to select 5 young filmmakers, aspiring documentary filmmakers from all over the country who've never really left the country, to go on a trip to Africa to make a story for a nonprofit organization. It all began in Toronto with Mark Bone and his Art of Documentary team.
Knowing just a few key story points will just completely transform your film, and we'll talk about that today.
Jake asked me before we got here, what was I hoping to learn, and I just said something new, and I feel like I learned 10 things new.
After Toronto, we flew to Kigali and we engaged with Alex. Alex is the founder of a nonprofit called Ndahe. He said his whole childhood, he felt like his story didn't matter, like nobody cared about him. And so to see is he's created this environment where he's brought these communities together, and he's made it so that way these kids can have a place where they wake up in the morning, and regardless of what kind of situation they live in, whether they're living with step parents or they don't have parents at all and they're living on the street, that they have a place where one person looks at them and says, your story matters, that I see you and I care about you. There's no greater project I've ever worked on in my entire life than this one. I know with certainty that each one of these filmmakers now has the tools, the community, and the access to create whatever they want to create when they go home, to be whatever kind of change agents they want to be in their cities and in their communities. Because I think the key insight into how do we find meaning and purpose in our life, it's the oldest question that we've been asking ourselves. The irony is it's not actually about us. It's about what you can give to someone else. It's about what you can create for someone else. And then the cosmic repercussion of that is tenfold of what it does for your life. No one person can make all of the change that the world needs to see. But if we all play our part in our corners, together we can say that we've accomplished something incredible.
That's cool. Isn't life more than stuff? Isn't life more than food? Isn't life more than, the great thing you can do that makes you feel so good? Isn't life more than your things? It is. It's so much more. And Jake's living that out in his way, with his gifts and his talents. Because when I said last week that I want you to surf, and to serve and to give your life away, it's not just a church thing. This is a thing. This is a marriage thing. It's how you do marriage well. It's how you do friendship well. It's how you do community well. It's how you do all things in life well. It's how you do your job well. You learn to give your life away. And Jake said what? The cosmic effect that it has on your life is tenfold. What happens when you give your life away for the good of others is that your life gets better every time. But you'll never know that until you try that and you do that somewhere with your life. So maybe you can't fly to Africa and take 5 documentary film workers to make a documentary about a nonprofit. But you can show up here every Sunday and help a kid know that there's somebody who cares about him. You can show up here every Sunday and sit with a child and let that child know that we see you, we love you, and we know your story, and we want to help you. You can sit with teenagers and help them navigate the difficulty of being a teenager in today's world. You could greet someone in the parking lot. You say, well, I don't even know if I believe in Jesus yet, Darren. I can't be serving at church. Do you believe in traffic regulation? I mean, you could do that in the parking lot, okay? You don't have to believe what we believe to tell somebody where to park. You just need to be a decent human, all right? And not like traffic. That's all you need. And so you believe in a clean parking lot. All right. Get you there, start there. And so last week I preached my heart out. I mean, I had a surfboard up here, and I made this joke about I didn't surf and I missed out, and I used the word surf like it really was serve, and you guys were like, oh, I get it, it's surfing, but it's serving. Yeah, it's funny. I was like, now take out your QR code on that paper and scan it, and you guys were like, no. We're not going to do that. And so 5 humans scanned that card last week and signed up. So we got everything we need. We're good to go. Thank you for that. My ego's fine. I slept great this week. No, it's got to be my fault. It's got to be my fault. It wasn't clear enough. Plus, people hate QR codes. What we found out, they just don't like QR codes. Those of you out there, you're just like, I just don't want to move right now. I'm sitting here listening. That's all I want to do. I don't want to move. I don't want to take my phone out. I don't want to be tempted and distracted because I'm a good Christian follower of Jesus, and I don't want my phone distracting me. That's why I didn't do it. I get it. All the reasons why you didn't do it. But my assumption is it's my fault. I wasn't clear enough what we needed. So I'd love for you right now to take out that card out of the back of your seat. Just take it out. And just, even if you're not going to do anything, just move so my fragile ego feels like you're doing it, all right? It feels like, thank you, sir. Hold it up in the air. Wave it like you just don't care, right? Okay, right. And then I want you to take your phone out, and I want you to scan it. And when you scan it, you're going to get this. You're going to get this on your phone. This is what's going to pop up on your phone. Oh, sorry. Let me do this first. This is what you get on your phone, okay? You're going to get a serve sign up that look like that. But here's what we need. Let me be clear about what we need, all right? This is what we need. We need 20 people to work with kids. 14 of them we need at this hour. Because look at y'all. There's a bunch of kids over there right now going nuts. No, they're not going nuts. We're barely hanging on, okay? But we need about 14 people at the 11 a.m. to do it really right, to do it well. And so if you can switch to attend the 9, first of all, the 9 is growing as well. You're not going to feel like, oh, this is the lame service. It's not, okay? It's actually fantastic. It was one of the greatest services ever this morning. Someone came to me this morning and said, hey, I just want you to know that was like one of the best sermons that you've preached. And I never know how to take that, because then I think to myself, what about the other ones, you know? Like, well, it's very kind of you to say it, but I don't know, thank you for that. What about last week? How'd you feel? No, but the point is, 9 o'clock's great is what I'm trying to say, okay? And we need about 14 people at the 11 for the kids. And it's not babysitting. I don't know how many times I have to say this. It's not babysitting. It is helping young kids know how to build a foundation of faith. And it's also impacting their parents who get to come in here and take a break so parents can grow their faith. It's making a difference in the community. We need about 6 to 8 females to serve with middle school and high school. Now, this means that you're a female, you have a relationship with Jesus. We're looking for small group leaders. And God has changed your life, and your faith has impacted your life in a way that you could pass that on to some middle school and high school students. We're looking for that. We're also looking for 8 to 10 people in guest services. We want this to be the Disneyland of a church when you walk in. We want it to feel like everybody's welcome, feel like it's home, feel like everybody knows how to find a seat, gets the help they need to get wherever they're going, make the coffee, whatever. 4 to 6 people for production, helping with all the things that go on to make sure this service happens and the lights work and all that kind of stuff. So we need that. But 2 other things that we need that's on the list, if you go to that code and scan that code like you're all doing right now, if you go there, you'll see the care portal. The care portal is this. The care portal is there's a need in the community somewhere. There's some sort of need out there that we don't know about, but the care portal is going to find it for us. And so let's say a kid needs money for basketball registration. They want to be in basketball camp, but they can't afford it. And so their parents can connect with this thing called the care portal, and all these churches that have signed up will get a notification, oh, hey, this kid needs this, or this family needs that. They need a new crib because the baby is coming and they can't afford the crib, or the baby's coming back, or the kid's coming back after a foster care situation, or they're taking on a foster kid and they need help with this. And then our care portal team, 8 to 10 people that are on the team go, well, let's take that one. Let's take the basketball shoe one. Let's take the basketball registration fee. Let's take the crib, and let's handle that. And then you, as a team of 8 people, you just work with each other and you solve it. And no one knows about it except you and God and the family. And you're behind the scenes serving our community, taking care of needs. And here's the cool thing. We don't do it very often. There's not that many that come through. So if you're looking for something to sign up for where you did something, you signed up, you said you do it, and you barely had to do anything, this is a great option for you. Okay? If that's where you're at, okay? It's not hard. But next Sunday at 12:30, mark your calendar, we're having lunch. Anyone interested in helping with the care portal, because we want to be there on the spot when needs pop up, all right? So that's care portal. And then Foster the City Advocate. We're looking for somebody to step in as our Foster the City Advocate to just help those that are fostering families or interested in helping support foster families, just sort of organize all of that. It's not a terribly, it's not a ton of time, but if you have a heart for foster kids and foster families, it'd be a great spot for you. So those are the options. There's a lot of options on there. I'd love for you to look at the options. We will call you back this week. Sign up for something and give your life away for the good of others. I promise you, it's going to make a difference in our community, in our church, in the kids, and even in you. It'll change your life too. It's an all skate. I want everyone to play. So that's the hope, right? But I know God's going to do it. I'm not worried. I'm not freaking out. I'm not like, oh no, the church is falling apart because only 5 people signed up. I'm really not. I know God's going to do it because we have a big God. We have a God who says, Paul writes about him, he says, now unto him who's able to do infinitely more than you could ever ask or imagine, to him be all glory and honor and power and praise forever and ever, amen. Now unto him who's able to do more than you could ever imagine. I can't even imagine what God's going to do. Like I should be worrying about what's going to happen next Sunday. I'm not worried about it. God's going to do great things because we have a big God. In fact, I want to tell you about that big God this morning. I want to talk to you about God for just a minute this morning. See, God is bigger than you can imagine, right? He's more than you can imagine. You can't even fathom him. You cannot fathom how big God is. Let me read you some things that God has said about himself in God's word. Let's take a look at this, all right? So this comes from Psalm 145:3. It says, "Great is the Lord. He is most worthy of praise. His greatness is beyond discovery." In other words, you cannot and will not ever get to the end of his greatness. His greatness is beyond what you can even recognize, know, or understand. His mercy, bigger than you can fathom. His love, wider than you can imagine. His kindness, oh, you don't even know what kindness is. You can't even imagine how kind he is. His grace and his love and his ability and his creativity and his power. He's so powerful. His knowledge, you cannot even imagine how knowledgeable God is. You don't get it. You can't possibly get it in our finite little minds. 145:16 says this, "When you open your hand, God, you satisfy the hunger and thirst of every living thing." That's a big claim. You satisfy the hunger, physical, emotional, spiritual. You satisfy the hunger of everything. When you open your hand, you satisfy. Here's one. "The Lord is close to all who call on him. Yes, to all who call on him sincerely." You know what that means? At first glance, it's like, okay, why do you pick this verse? The Lord is close to all who call on him. That means he's close to you. Close to you, close to you, anyone who calls you and you and you and you, somehow, and you 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 and all of you and you and all y'alls. And somehow, God is able to, when you call on him in your own home, at your own time, on your knees, in your bedroom, in your state of terror, in your broken moments, when you call on him sincerely, God goes, I can be close to all of you, all at the same time. 8 billion people almost on the planet. And God goes, I will get close to anyone who calls on me. That's mind-blowing. How in the world does he know every hair on every head? How does he know every piece of sand on the seashore? You ever sat there with some sand in your hand and tried to count it? You get to what's a billion right here? You know, this has got to be a billion right here. I mean, he knows every detail of every inch of this planet. That's amazing. Now, some of you, I know you don't believe in God yet, but if he's big and if he's good, I hope you do. Psalm 147:10 says this, "The strength of a horse does not impress him. How puny is the strength of a man." We were hanging with a friend with some horses this weekend, and I'd already written this message, and so we were walking alongside the horse, and I had this verse in my mind, like that the Lord is not impressed with the strength of a horse. And the horse kept knocking into me. I was smacking its backside. You ever smacked the backside of a horse before? Good Lord. I mean, these things are powerful. I mean, strong. They've got a rump, okay? They got a backside. And you smack a horse before? You ever smacked a horse and just thought to yourself, oh my gosh. That's why we have the phrase built like a horse. You know, you meet some dude out there that's in the gym or something, and you go over, you're like, hey, what's up, bro? And there's that moment in your mind where like, holy crap, you're huge. You're like, you are very strong, and I am not, and my hand just, got sucked up by your arm. And so these animals are huge, and they're powerful. And look at what it says. It says, the Lord is not impressed with a horse. What? What are you talking about? So the Lord is like, hey, horsey. Hello there, buddy. How you doing? You little guy. Remember when I made you, you know? How big is God? How big is God? If he looks at the whole earth and he goes, I'm not impressed by anybody's strength. And you're like, yo, bro, I benched 275, you know? And the Lord is like, ooh, look at those little biceps, you know? Like, how puny that we go to God and we're like, look how ripped I am. Look how strong I am. Like, I got life, you know? And God's like, I'm really not impressed with your muscles, you know? Like, it's not impressive. I made all that. I thought that up. That was my idea. Isaiah 43:10 says, I alone am God. There's no other God. There never has been and never will be. God is saying, there ain't nothing to compare me to. I'm God. I'm God of all of it. Isaiah 45:11. This is what the Lord, the Creator, the Holy One of Israel says. Do you question what I do? Do you give me orders at the work of my hands? I'm the one who made the earth and created people to live on it. With my hands, I stretched out the heavens. All the millions of stars are at my command. Everything on the planet, in the universe, I'm in charge of all of it. That's the God that I am. By the way, it's not arrogant of God to talk about himself like this. Why not? Because it lines up with reality. It's accurate for God to talk to him about this. It would be wrong for God not to tell us about this. He's got to let us know who we're dealing with here. We're not dealing with some wimpy little God who can't handle our stuff. We're talking about the God of the universe who made it all. Now, some of you don't even believe in God as a creator because you've been told that evolution is the way that it happened. You've been sold this bill of lies, I think, about evolution. Now, some of you are arguing with me in your head because your teacher told you. You read it in the books. But if you look at our science books, do you know what's in our science books about evolution? Pictures. Do you know why there's drawings? Do you know why there's drawings? You know why there are drawings of evolution? Because there are no pictures. So we have to draw out what we think happened. And it's just a theory. Do you know why there aren't pictures of the fossils that are the transitional fossils that should exist if transitions were happening? Do you know why we don't have the pictures of those fossils? Because they're not there. Because we don't have them. Now listen, I'm not making fun of it, kind of I am, but I'm just saying, for so long we've been told creation is stupid. You're so stupid if you believe in God. You're not stupid if you believe in God. Look at the science. The whole scientific model is not playing fair when it comes to evolution because the law of science, thermodynamics, says that everything's falling apart. The world's getting worse. If you clean your bedroom, does it get cleaner on its own or dirtier on its own? It gets dirtier on its own. It gets dustier on its own. It falls apart on its own. The whole earth, they say, is falling apart. Things are disintegrating, essentially, and yet evolution speaks up and goes, no, we think everything probably is getting more better good. No, it's not. Nothing in science points to this. You get scientists look at creationists and say, you're stupid for believing in a God. You know why they don't want to believe in a God? Because if they believe in a God this big, they got to do something about it. If you believe in a God this big, you're accountable to him. And I would rather not be accountable to that God, so let me find up some other reason, some other way we got here. There must be something else. Let's make something up. Let's teach it. Let's change a theory to a reality. Let's take something that was a small guess from Darwin about the finches, and we saw little changes in one particular group, which is normal and happens all the time. That's like breeding. But then let's make this huge jump and say, well, if finches can have little changes and adaptations over time, then I bet everything came from nothing. So it's from zoo to you, it's from goo to you by way of the zoo. That's how it happened. There was goo, and now there's you, and you got there through the zoo. That's how it happened. Well, how did it happen? Well, millions of years. Where's the evidence? Millions of years. Well, what evidence do you have? Millions of years. Well, how do you know? Because millions of years. That's strong science argument right there. I'm telling you, God's real. And he's big and he's strong. And even if he chose to use evolution, which I don't believe he did, he's the one who started it. And Job, there's this recording of Job where, Job was this guy who the devil got to mess with, and he gets frustrated. He talks to God. God talks back to Job in Job 38. You should read Job 38 when God says to Job, hey, Job, just a real question. I got some questions for you now. You've been talking to me. I got some questions for you. Were you there when I laid the foundation of the earth? Do you know where I keep the snow? Do you know how I came up with precipitation? Do you know how I built the lion? Do you know how I did that? Were you there when I built the lion? You weren't there, were you? You weren't there when I built the lion, but I built the lion. You got some questions for me? You want to tell me how to do my job, Job? I got this, bro. I know what I'm doing. And my whole point is this. I could go on. I could go on about how big God is, but I'm trying to make a point here. There's a really big God. It's a good thing because you have really big problems. You have really hard stuff. You got really big problems that you're walking through. And if I were to go through this room and I were to have, hey, let's take a couple hours and let's have everybody stand up and let's shout out your deepest, darkest soul hurting stress right now. Let's talk about what you're really walking through. Look, go through the truth. Tell the truth about what you're carrying. Let's all talk about our truth about what we're carrying. There would be a mess in here. I mean, we would be crying. We would be like, oh, mine's not that bad. I thought mine was, pray for that guy and that girl, you know, like, there would be broken marriage stuff, there would be hurting, there would be sexual addictions, there would be alcohol addictions, there would be drug addictions, there'd be self-hatred, there would be loneliness, there would be fears about children, there'd be prodigal kids that you're praying for that you don't think they're ever going to come back, there would be financial issues, there would be sadness and just, it would be self-hatred, there would be people who you just think you're ugly, you hate yourself, you think you're too fat or too dumb or your ears are too big, you've never liked your face, you never liked your hair, you never liked your butt, you never liked anything about yourself, and you just look in the mirror, you think, I suck compared to everybody else. I mean, there'd be so much self-loathing and so much like misery in this room that we all would feel better. But you don't know what to do with it, and you end up hiding it, and you got all this stuff that you're walking through, and your whole life isn't like that. You got some good things too, but you've got problems. You got big problems. And the question becomes, if God's so good and he's so big, why do I have all these problems? How come my life isn't so good? What's going on? Well, you think, and I've thought, you know, that all those problems that you have, the self-hatred and the divorce and the anger and the frustration and the, you know, all the racism and the political arguments and the, you know, just all the stuff that we're going through, we think that it's just those issues. But that's not true. And it's not that God is doing it to you. It's this, that we are involved in an unseen spiritual war. There's a war going on that you can't see. Now, some of you who go to this church, you've been coming for a while, and you are like, I love this church because it's very normal, and the pastor's hilarious, and it's always funny. He always says funny stuff. I just said that. You're like, you brought a friend today. You're like, he's normally funny. This isn't funny at all. And so what are we doing here? Are we going to be bringing out snakes? And like, are we like talking in tongues? What do you mean spiritual war going on? This is just, he'll be funny next week. Come back next week. This is all I'm trying to say. All I'm trying to say is when it comes to self-hatred, there's more to self-hatred than just self-hatred. There's more going on. When it comes to like, you know, bullying, there's something else going on. When it comes to sexual addiction, it's not just the physical body. When it comes to your alcohol abuse or your loneliness or your anger management or whatever it is, it's coming from somewhere. Evil and pain is coming from somewhere. And if it's not coming from God, where's it coming from? And what Paul says, what Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10, is he says, listen, there's something going on more than you can see. He says a final word, be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you'll be able to stand firm against the strategies of the devil. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. There's an unseen world that you can't see and I can't see, and that's where evil is coming from. It's where it's stemming from. There's an enemy out there that hates your guts, that doesn't want you to survive, that doesn't want you to be happy, that wants to tear you down and ruin your life. And he's going to make suggestions to you that make sense at the time, but really they're to destroy you. In high school, he's going to say it's just a little weed. By the time you're a heroin addict on the street, he doesn't even have to do anything anymore. He says, listen, it's just, you know, it can happen like this. The lies that he tells, it could be like, hey, you and your person like to go have a glass of wine, right? We're in Sonoma County, it's great, nothing wrong with that. And then your marriage implodes. And the enemy says, hey, if a little wine is good, you know what you need right now? You need a lot of wine. You need a little wine every night. You need a bunch of wine every night. You need a little more wine at night because that's what's going to heal your heart right now. It's going to numb the pain. It's going to let it go away, right? And the enemy says lies to you all the time. He says, you know what you need to do? You just need to hang on to that bitterness. You know what you should do? Just hang on to the hatred. Don't forgive them. Look what they did to you. If you forgive them, it's going to be like they walk all over you. Don't you do that. Don't you forgive them because then they're getting away with it. And he spins the truth of forgiveness. The truth of forgiveness is it takes strength to forgive, and when you do it, it frees you. But the enemy tells lies. He says, no, if you forgive, they're going to get away. No, if you forgive, you're going to get away. You're going to get free. That's what's going to happen. But the enemy wants you to fail. There's an enemy out there. So Paul writes and he says, listen, you got to put on the full armor of God. You got to be ready for this battle that's coming your way. And he lists the things that you have to put on. He starts with the belt of truth. He says in chapter 6, verse 12, therefore put on every piece of God's armor, all of it, so you'll be able to resist the enemy in the time of evil. See, here's the thing. You don't know when the battle's coming, right? You don't know when the battle is coming. You don't know when you're about to be in the battle of your life. Do you think King David knew the battle was coming that day? He decided to stay home? King David decides, I'm not going out to war today. This is the day when he saw Bathsheba showering, and he was like, oh, okay. She's fine, you know. I'm king, and I think I should at least say hello. So somebody go get that woman and bring her up here. And then he was like, hey, do you think King David knew that that day when he woke up, that was the day he would ruin his legacy? No, it's not. He didn't wake up thinking, you know what I should do today? I should have this affair, and then I should kill her husband, and then I should cover it up, and then I should, just sort of marry her after that. That's what I'm going to do today. He just got up, and he let down his guard. And when he let down his guard, his whole world fell apart because the enemy got in. Do you remember that time when you got super drunk and made those good decisions? Remember that? You don't remember that, do you? Because when you get super drunk, you don't make good decisions. Why? Because when you're super drunk, the alcohol's running your life at that point. And you let your guard down. And you know when the enemy's coming? When your guard's down. And so you got your guard down with that too much to drink, too much to smoke, too much porn that I'm looking at. I got my guard down. The enemy's like, oh, let me see here. Oh, yeah, that's a little too much to drink. That's a little too much to drink. Oh, right there, that one's lonely. Not reading their Bible, doesn't care about God. Stop going to church. Stop listening to the right music. Oh, that one's got their guard down. Just out there taking you up, taking us out. Hates you, wants to take you out. And so Paul is writing going, you got to put on the full armor of God. You got to put on truth. You got to put on God's righteousness. You got to put on the good news and the peace of God. You got to put on faith as your shield. This is what a shield would look like in those days. A shield would cover their whole body. You got to have this thing ready because faith is what keeps you from doubts. And you go, well, so am I just supposed to believe blindly because some of you don't believe? No. Faith is not just believing blindly. Faith is when you've collected enough evidence to make a reasonable decision. See, if you're going to have a surgery on your eye, right, you're not going to be like, I don't care who the doctor is. Anybody. I'll take anybody. No, if you're having surgery on your eye, you're like, let me do a little research. Let me look around. Let me see who's been successful at surgically repairing the eye. And this guy gets good reviews. This guy gets a 1.4 out of 5. He's off the list. This guy gets a 5 out of 5, a 4.9 out of 5. They're going to be on the list. And so you make your decision on your eye doctor, then you go to the surgery, and you still have to put your faith in the guy you researched because you don't really know if he's going to mess up your eye. Faith is an informed decision that we make based on information we've gathered. The same thing's true about your Christian faith. You first gather the information. How do I know if this Jesus stuff is real? Have I studied? Have I looked into it? Do I know what the Bible says, or just hearsay from YouTube? Have I asked my hard questions? Have I gathered the historical evidence? Have I seen the archaeology? Do I know about the manuscripts? Do I know how they line up with each other? Like, is there evidence that this stuff is true? And then I make my decision of faith, and now the enemy comes to say, that stuff's all BS, because look at your life. You go, no, I already did the research. You can back up, sir. I know you want me to doubt. I know you want me to quit, but I've already done the research. I believe it with all my heart. I have faith. I know there's a possibility that something's all, but I believe in God. And you can back up. And then he says the helmet of salvation. Well, why the helmet of salvation? Where is the enemy doing his best work right now in just this generation? In our minds. Mental health is off the charts. And God says, put the helmet of salvation on. Why? Because salvation tells you what? You are safe. You don't have to worry. You don't have to be afraid. Some of you in your minds, you're so worried and you're so afraid. You need to put on salvation and remind yourself that you are already safe. You're good. God's got you. Now, I was trying to think about how to bring this into like modern day thinking. And so there was this game in the 2000s, early 2000s called Halo. And I saw one person put their hand up like, yeah. So I was bad at it. I'd play with high school students, and it's a game where you walk through rooms and stuff, and you have a gun, and you're trying to take people out, okay? I know some of you don't like that already, but it's a game. And so I know we shouldn't play this game. Just go with me. And so when I played the game, this is what my view was like. I didn't know, I couldn't like control the controller, so I was like, where is the person? You know, I was all over the place, you know, and then all of a sudden I was dead. You know, that's how I played. And they're like, you suck at this. I was like, I do, okay? But the idea was you're running around through this game getting shot at by people you can't see, and in order to protect yourself, you have to level up with body armor, you have to level up with this, you gotta go reload something, you gotta get more bullets, you gotta like restore your life because life is being taken from you. You're getting shot at by something you can't see, and so you gotta reload. And Paul's writing saying, life's a video game, and you're getting shot at. You gotta make sure your armor's up, because if your armor's not up, the enemy's gonna take you out. And so I thought, well, I also play this game on my phone. Have you ever seen this game before? Have you played this before? Right? And it's you, and then you gotta like, you know, and then you get, but start it over again. Let's start it over again. Can we start it over again? Okay. So here, this is like, okay, I need to read my Bible, I need to pray, okay? But my wife said what to me? And okay, here comes okay, I need to reload, okay, but then that person in traffic, and then my job, my boss, I hate my boss, and my boss, I got fired? What? What do you mean you're dumping me? I better go back to church. Oh, you don't like me anymore? You're gonna say what about me? And you keep loading up. You keep going back to Bible study. You keep going back to church. You keep listening to that song. And then the enemy at the end, right? You win, even though he's trying to take you out. He's swinging at you. He wants you to stumble, and you're like, nah, too strong. Got the armor on. I'm good to go because I'm prayed up, and I'm walking with God. I know who he is, and you can't take me out, enemy. You don't have what it takes to take me out because I have been restored, redeemed, and I'm whole, and I'm healed, and God loves me, and I'm walking in truth. I'm not listening to your lies anymore. I got the full armor of God on. But as soon as you take your guard down, he's looking to take you out. So Paul says, keep it on. Keep the armor on. Stay connected to your Heavenly Father. I've got a friend who's a pastor, and he recently got caught in an affair. And I texted him. He lost his whole ministry. He lost his job. He lost his church, big church, influential guy. And I texted him, and I said, hey, man, I'm really sorry that happened. Don't give up. Don't quit. I know it's not who you want to be. I'm praying for you. He texts back. He said, thank you. I can't believe I did this after all this time. I can't believe I did this after all this time. What does that tell me? It tells me he didn't want this to be his story. He didn't want his story to be that he's the pastor who got taken out by this. And most of you in this room, you don't want your story to be that you did X, Y, Z. You don't want your story to be that you're this way or that way. You don't want your story to be that you got kids that you never talked to. You don't want your story to be that you walked out on somebody. You don't want your story to be what it might be, but some of you are going to have a story that includes some painful thing because you do not have the armor of God on. You are not adding it to your life. You're not walking with God. You're ignoring God. The enemy is looking at you going, you're an easy target. You're an easy target. You're an easy target. You're going to fall, fall, fall. The enemy hates you, so we got to armor up to be ready for it, or our stories will be what we don't want them to be. Now, some of you are walking in stories of somebody else's foolishness, and that's painful, and that's difficult. You still have to run back to the source of life and hope. You still have to run to the God, because the enemy wants to take somebody else's failure and use it to wreck your life too. You gotta armor up. So, here's the good news. I started with this thing about how big God is. There was a reason for that. I wanted to land in this place where you're like, wow, the enemy's really mean. He hates us, and this is dangerous. But I want to start with a reminder that God is even bigger. John wrote it like this. He says, greater is he who's in you than he who's in the world. Your problems are big. The enemy is strong. But Jesus is 10 times stronger, 1,000 times stronger. Greater is he who's in you than he who's in the world. So that's true. So if Jesus is so much more powerful than any enemy that I'll ever face, then I need to do this. I need to do whatever it takes to get close or stay close to Jesus. Some of you need to hear that today. in the pain, in the struggle, in the attacks, he's bigger and he's better and he's stronger. So do whatever you have to do to get close to him. We're going to help you with it. We're going to do two things. We're going downtown on the 14th to pray for the event on the 24th. Thursday night, next Thursday night, we're going to all go down and pray together at 6:30. Anybody that wants to come, we're going to go to the square. We're just going to pray over the event. We're going to ask God to do big things in our city. But between now and then, for the next 20 days, if you want, you can join us in praying. Would you join us in praying for yourself, spending time with God? If you'd like to, just text the word pray to 833-717-1987. Text the word pray to 833-717-1987. And join us. We're going to send you a text every day, one text that will just tell you how to pray that day. And we're going to challenge us to pray, to get close to God, to keep him close. Don't let the enemy destroy your life. Last thing I'll say is this. For those of you that think, well, if the church knew how bad I was, or if you knew how far down I was, you guys wouldn't even want to talk to me. That's a lie. Don't let the enemy tell you that you need to be a perfect person to be welcome here. I'm telling you, if your life is a mess sometimes, you are sitting among friends. Let me pray. God, thanks for loving us. Thank you, God, that you're bigger and stronger. For those that still have doubts and think, I don't know if there really even is a God. Lord, would you help them to be willing to have that conversation and to investigate and to find out if it's even true, and not just give up and not just quit and not just say, well, I heard from YouTube. Would you help people to seek after you? God, for those who are sitting in the middle of a mess who the enemy's been targeting, would you give them the ability to come back to you, to be strong, to put on the armor of God, and to defeat the enemy with your truth, God. I pray that the lies wouldn't live in our head, that the truth would win out. I pray this in Jesus' name, amen. And we'll see you all back here next week. If you're new, I'd love to meet you in the back of the red carpet. Have a great week.